Nobody outside of Vladimir Putin himself knows what Russia's plan is, whether he plans to order an invasion or not.
I've been absolutely clear with President Putin. He has no misunderstanding. If any assembled Russian units move across the Ukrainian border, that is an invasion.
The reasons why this is happening, from a Russian perspective, they go back 30 years. They go back to what they think was a promise made to them at the end of the Cold War, that the NATO military alliance would not expand to the east. And even without Ukraine joining NATO, which no one thinks is imminent anyways, they see countries like Canada, the United States, Britain sending trainers to Ukraine, sending weapons to Ukraine. And they say, is de facto joining NATO, and that is a threat to our security. And we're not going to wait until Ukraine is more heavily armed, until Ukraine is more deeply integrated with NATO. We're drawing the line here. From a Ukrainian perspective, this is all very threatening. They say the real threat is that Ukraine's a democracy, that it's choosing its own course, and that Vladimir Putin's Kremlin can't accept that. Russia says they're worried about an incident, and they say they're concerned there will be a Ukrainian attack on the Donbass region, the southeast part of Ukraine that is controlled by a Russian-backed militia. They call them separatists. They're worried Ukraine's going to try and retake that region by force, and that's why they've brought their army up. Ukraine says they have no intention of doing so. They're on alert for what they call a provocation, some sort of attack that is made to look like the Ukrainian forces have attacked Donbass that will be used as justification for a pre-planned Russian invasion. There's a lot of equipment now positioned around Ukraine. What that isn't really there in the numbers you'd expect are the soldiers to use those pieces of weaponry. If you start to see plane loads of soldiers arriving at forward positions, that might mean something is imminent. Most people I talk to think that's probably still 10, 14 days away before we start to see the real movement. They could be wrong about that you could start to see things happen fast, especially if there's a provocation, as everybody's been talking about, some sort of incident in eastern Ukraine or somewhere else in the country that the Russians and Ukrainians blame each other for, that could be used as a cause for starting a conflict. The pathways to defusing the situation are difficult to see right now, because at the end of the day, what Russia wants is a different Ukraine on its border.
I conveyed the position of the United States and our European allies and partners that we stand firmly with Ukraine in support of its sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Individual countries like Canada, Britain, the US in particular, Poland, are going to try and help Ukraine as much as they can. But again, nobody wants a wider war with Russia. And so every gesture of support, every delivery of weapons has to be very carefully calibrated.
We're working with our international partners and colleagues to make it very, very clear that Russian aggression and further incursion into Ukraine is absolutely unacceptable.
Canada spent millions of dollars supporting Ukraine's democracy, investing in Ukraine's institutions, training its judges, training its police, training its soldiers. Canada was the second country in the world to recognize Ukraine's independence back in 1991. All of that is part of why Vladimir Putin hates the direction that Ukraine is going in, part of the reason that we might see a terrifying conflict in Eastern Europe.